went on watch at 8 o'clock on that Sunday night, the 14th of April. It was a clear night. There was no signs of any fog. I was sitting in my cabin having a cup of tea when the crash came. She was doing full speed. There was one man had a piece of ice, and I took it away out of his hands, wondering where he got it from. And I spoke to him in English and tried to make him understand that it was nothing, there was nothing the matter. Go down and go to bed and go to sleep again, you see. The band was beginning to tune up, playing Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Speaking for myself, I knew only too well that there were chances, if long ones, of sighting an iceberg. But as I reckoned, in ample time to clear it with a turn of the wheel. Now, throughout the day, there had been the usual wireless messages from different ships, reporting the weather, odd icebergs, and so forth. But as none of these bergs reported lay on our course, well, they didn't directly concern us. Ice right ahead, sir. Hard a starboard. Full speed astern. It wasn't long before Boxall, the fourth officer, poked his head round my door and said, "You know we've struck an iceberg." "I know you've struck something," I told him, not thinking it anything serious and feeling none too pleased. No one believed that the ship was actually in any danger. I'm afraid my own confidence that she wouldn't or couldn't sink rather conveyed itself to others. For there were actually cases where women absolutely refused to be put in a boat.
When I went to the gala dinner, I had on a white satin evening dress, and just before going to my stateroom, A11, there was a bump. As I turned the handle of my room, there was another bump. And as I got into my room, there was a third bump. I thought to myself, what are these bumps? Sort of little pushes, nothing very violent. And I slipped on a coat over my white satin evening dress and right out from my own stateroom, because my stateroom had a door leading to the promenade deck. And as I got out on the promenade deck, I saw a large grey, well, it looked to me like a building, great big grey thing. But that building kept bumping along the rail, and as it bumped, it sliced off bits of ice, and ice fell all over the deck. And I, and a great many of my foolish fellow passengers, we just picked up the ice and started to play snowballs. I was in bed, and some man came to my door, knocked at the door and said, "Madam, get up, put on your life belt, get up." So I got out of bed. I only had one woolen dress that was out, a sheath dress, a half a yard around the ankles, so tight that from my hips to my ankles I was practically, well, I would say I was in a potato sack. I couldn't walk. I had a hobble. In those days, they were called hobble skirts. And I put on a wool cap and a couple of foxes. I remember a white fox and a brown fox or something. And the thinnest fur coat I had, a broadtail. I couldn't have been dressed more ridiculously. And lovely velvet slippers with diamond buckles. I locked the windows. I locked every trunk. I locked the bureau drawers and the cupboards, and I thought it was perfectly asinine to leave a warm, comfortable ship to come back for breakfast. Wareham, my steward, came along, and I said, "Wareham, I understand we're being taken off the ship, so here's my trunk keys." I looked down and found I'd lost one of my buckles on my shoe. I wanted that buckle. I was that much interested in the buckle and absolutely disinterested in anything pertaining to saving my life, because after all it was an unsinkable ship, you see. What could happen to me?
The first boats that got away were only half filled. And then the boats that were swinging up in the davits on the starboard side were packed, and people were trying to get in all around. They were being pull back and knock back, and there was a bit of chaos there. But nobody realized then that she would sink, you know. She had a double bottom, but unfortunately, when we hit that berg, it tore her from forward right off the engine room, and the water simply went straight up into her. Bulkheads couldn't save her ship, because she was torn right out. It's like a knife cutting right through her. And until she gradually went down by the head and righted herself, then we were able to get away. But not all of them, unfortunately. They hurried the first two, and they were tipped. They hit the boat, and all the occupants were tipped into the water. And I couldn't do any more then, so I began to think of myself a little bit. And then I had here a life jacket, and I thought I'd go and find it.
I was asleep, my father was asleep, of course. When this terrible thing did happen, you put this thick coat on, I put another one on, and got me up out of bed. Lots of people milling about. It wasn't very late, it was only midnight, and people were still enjoying themselves, and he put us right by a lifeboat. And oh, it was so cold. He came back and said that they are going to launch the boats. Purely a precaution, you will all be back on board for breakfast. Yes, the ship has struck an iceberg. But it's quite all right, you know. We've got 15 watertight compartments. There's nothing to worry about. In fact, I believe some people did go back to bed.
I got out of bed and finally got into the lounge where some men were smoking, and they said, "What's the matter with you?" to me. Well, I said, "What's the matter with me? I want to know what's the matter with the boat." And he said, "Oh, there isn't anything. We just grazed an iceberg."
We just picked up the ice and started to play snowballs.
Well, I said, "What's the matter with me? What's the matter with you?"
Ice right ahead, sir.
Just grazed an iceberg.
Hard to starboard. Full speed astern.
In fact, I believe some people did go back to bed.
The crash came.
What's the matter with you?
Go to sleep.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing the matter. Go down and go to bed and go to sleep again.
There's nothing to worry about.
After all, it was an unsinkable ship, you see. What could happen to me?
Couldn't do any more then, so I began to think of myself a little bit.
Put on your life belt. Get up. Put on your life belt. Get up. Put on your life belt. Get up.
Pull for the shore, sailor, pull for the shore. Heed not the rolling waves of death to the oar. Safe in life, old sailors, song la 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 la. Leave the poor old stranded ship and pull for the shore.